We're back. We're back with an interesting one. We've spoken about Sonic today and just kind of like the value proposition for builders, fee monetization. We spoke to Michael early on, and I have the rare pleasure of speaking to essentially the architect and the founder of the tech behind Sonic. I think that is an accurate description and an introduction. Bernhard Scholz, professor in a previous life, still a professor, but more hands-on on Sonic. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time in Vienna, your hometown, I believe. You studied around the corner. Tell us a little bit about your journey as an academic, and then how the heck did you land up here with us on the DeFi side of things?
Thanks so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
So if I go back, so I was always interested in computers. So it goes way back to 1982 when my dad bought me a first Commodore 64.
I was there for the Commodore 64.
So, and that really inspired my love for computer science.
Cool.
And so I studied here. I'm not originally from Vienna. I was born here, but I lived outside of Vienna. But then I studied here and had my first steps in my academic career. I was an assistant professor in Vienna. But then I left Vienna, got a position at the University of Sydney, and I've been working there for the last 20 years.
So are you still working as a professor or an assistant professor?
So no, I was a full professor at the University of Sydney, but I believe the current job is very time consuming. There is no time to educate PhD students and do normal teaching. We have a tremendous effort in building teams. So I just changed the age cohort of my students from 18 to 24-year-old ones to a little bit older people. So it's still a lot of teaching and training effort required. Adding talent and training the talent so that we can deliver technology as you have seen with Sonic.
So you obviously have a relationship with Michael. He was one of your students.
That is correct.
At the University of Sydney.
That's correct.
So how did the idea behind Sonic come about?
Well, actually, it started way back when we had a project for program comprehension. So it was more on the auditing side of smart contracts. So we were very interested what smart contracts are doing, and not by analyzing smart contracts by humans. So we wanted to have automated ways of analyzing smart contracts. My research was always in the space of static program analysis. So it's really what are programs doing? So there is a big problem in computer science. It's called the halting problem, so that we really don't know what programs are doing because it's an undecidable problem. So we can't find an algorithm deciding what other algorithms are doing. And for this, we need to introduce a notion of approximation, a notion of blurriness to really get a result. And so there's a whole field in computer science studying this, and we applied this for smart contracts. And that was a very successful project. So there was a spin-off based on this research, not myself, but a colleague of mine. He runs now an auditing company.
Yes.
But this was sort of my first step into the crypto world. Not so much really in the client space. It was really about smart contracts and how to analyze them and find security vulnerabilities fully automatically. And that was the entrance point.
Okay, so there's a whole lot of questions there. I mean, there's kind of like the question around AI, but we'll come back to it. And it's like, so when did it become a business opportunity? Was it a conversation that you had with Michael at the time? Was he a student at the time? Because I just interviewed him now, and he was like kind of relayed 2018 to me, and kind of like this whole idea that you need professionals to actually like oversee smart contracts as opposed to random people just thinking that they can fork. And So was it a business discussion that brought you guys?
Not at all. It
No.
was really purely academic. It
Okay.
was really a academic sort of opportunity in those days, writing papers about blockchains. It was fairly new. And to be honest, I was not very convinced in those days. It was students like Michael telling me, have a look, what's going on in that space. And that was sort of the starting point that students dragged me into the blockchain world. Personally, I was more interested in other aspects of computer science in those days.
So that was 2018, 2019.
This was, roughly when I came back from my stint from Oracle Labs, so a research lab in Australia, in Brisbane, where we were really interested in static program analysis and how to automate it. This was more work in the space of Java. Java is one of these programming languages, and we accumulated quite a bit of knowledge, but we tried to find new applications for this, and then blockchains was a natural fit. And so all the blockchain work started with students in those days around 2017, 18.
What is the transition from kind of like a purely academic ideology, I think that's probably the right terminology to use, into a business? I mean, this is a business now. You've got billions of dollars that are transacting on this thing. So it goes from, in many ways, a hypothetical thing to this practical application. What is the process for you when you look at it like kind of, okay, well, I've created this thing. What is your perspective around that?
Well, coming back, it was not really a first-off experience. So I was lucky that I got invited 2006 and 7 to set up some microsystems labs in Brisbane.
Yes.
And then later I returned to Oracle Labs for nearly 3 years. So I got exposed to industrial research. So without that knowledge, it would have been very hard for me.
Yes.
And with that knowledge, I was better equipped to embark with that new journey, setting up engineering teams, research teams for Sonic.
Okay.
So I learned there quite a bit, which was not, as an academic, it's quite different.
Absolutely.
You were telling me you did a PhD, you had to write research papers, so it's quite a different type of work in academia than in industry. But I was lucky that I was exposed to industrial research, and so I could translate this to Sonic and Sonic Labs. So I'm very grateful for the guys way back in the work I was able to do with the guys in Brisbane.
So I think one of the most important questions to ask any DeFi protocol, any ecosystem, is how do you future-proof what it is that you've built, right? So now you've got this amazing product, great speed. I mean, I've used it, and I continue to use it, and it truly is, I think it's revolutionary in that you hit your button and transaction goes through and you're not waiting at all.
Yeah.
Right? So that's great. What does the future look like for Sonic from your perspective? Like, do you have a wish list when you sit down and you say, well, okay, this is what I wanted to presently do? So there's two parts to this question. The first thing is, what does your daily routine look like at the moment in terms of your perspective on the Sonic network, and how do you future-proof Sonic going into the next 10 years, for example?
So future-proofing is an important sort of question because competition doesn't sleep. So whatever we are doing will be done by the competition fairly soon. But we strongly believe in innovation and building better technology. So we are talking already about a new database as we speak. We are talking about new consensus. We are talking about new virtual machines, which will come because there are changes in the Ethereum landscape. So we have something called EOF, which will come with the Osaka revision. And so we need to prepare for it. So we need to be on the ball. We need to really think in a forward fashion. We shouldn't, brick wall with patents and IP. I think that's the wrong way. Well, sure, we need to take certain measurements here, but at the end of the day, it's a race. It's an arms race, and the best and most talented in the technical space, I believe, will be the winners of the game. If you go back into the world of search engines before 2000,
do you remember Webcrawler?
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
or Alta Vista.
Yeah.
There was a fierce battle going on in those days. Who will be the winner? And there was at the end only one, maybe now two sort of search engines which are still used nowadays.
Okay.
And I feel something very similar will happen in the blockchain world. And I feel the battle will be carried out by technology. A few years back, it was all about narratives. If you had a good story, you could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think after this, we went into the world of prototypes, but now the real battle starts.
Yes.
Who can really show value for the end users? And crypto and DeFi maybe is only one use case, but there are so many other use cases in society, like law, like supply chains, like renewable energy. So I recently talked to someone in the space of hydrogen in Australia. So hydrogen is one of the ways to overcome global warming.
Yes.
And so the idea here is how can mistrusting parties still collaborate, and you have producers, you have consumers, and you want to make the accounting reliable and trustworthy
And transparent. Yeah.
and transparent.
Yeah.
And so blockchains might be a very good way forward for doing this. So
Yeah.
there are so many use cases beyond DeFi and the blockchain technology we would like to create is really a technology which has immense impact to human mankind.
Yeah, I mean, just government institutions could use a little bit of transparency and accountability, and obviously blockchain does that. So appreciate the points. I mean, I 100% agree. In terms of the kind of like the once again, the future proof of blockchain, a lot of discussion has been happening around kind of like the role of L1s. We've seen obviously mainnet Ethereum and L2s, and how kind of like there's almost like this parasitic relationship that exists between the L1 and the L2.
Yeah.
Is this a part of kind of this discussion around this arms race for blockchains, and how there's kind of an attrition or almost like a cannibalistic process around that? Or do you think it's just a process of amalgamating or aggregating all of those blockchains into one? How do you see the future playing out, L1s versus L2s? I mean, you guys are an L1, you've got your place firmly established, but how do you see your competition with Ethereum mainnet and then the L2s that are associated with that?
So L2s were born because of the need for being fast and efficient, and Ethereum couldn't deliver at the end of the day. And they try hard, but they needed to accommodate for for L2s. And if you look at the latest revisions, they had blobs to really allow L2s to put data on their chain. And we feel that might not be the right way forward. It's more a band-aid. And we feel that the niche L2 took can also be covered by super performant L1 blockchains like ours.
Yes.
We feel L2s might not be the right answer, but we are biased. So this is our view. We feel an L1, if you design it well, if you do your homework, you can achieve the performance you want with L1s. There's no need to use L2s. I mean, L2s may have a space if you think about permission blockchains run by companies, and they want sort of a closed world only with their data. So there might be some use cases for L2s, but I would say in general L1s and the having sort of a very canonical design of an L1 which is fast might be the better way forward.
Do you believe that Sonic could be a product that could facilitate an institution like BlackRock, for example? Because the whole philosophy here is, why would BlackRock come and build on Sonic for argument's sake? Because they obviously want to have the control. They want to run their own nodes. They want to do all that validation themselves. Understandably so. I mean, they're a $20 trillion company, and it's like, okay, well, maybe they want to do their own thing, and that's great. They still want to have the transparency, scalability, and the functionality. Does Sonic then put a product on the shelf and say, you can use our product, it's there, and it almost becomes like a white label thing? Or is that just not a possibility in the realm of blockchain?
That's an interesting question. So, I mean, I guess we need to have certain business conditions that will enable Sonic to get into these kind of markets. I mean,
Yes.
these markets are heavily regulated. You need licenses. You need certain protocols. At the moment, I would say that Sonic is able to provide the technology, but there's so much more to be done to get into markets you're describing here. So
Yes.
that's not, I mean, I'm a technical person. I provide, the nuts and bolts of the L1 chain. So we can talk about consensus, we can talk about databases. So that's my world.
Yes.
But I don't live in the world of regulations, of understanding how to really build businesses with our blockchain. So that needs to be answered by other parts of our team who are better equipped for this kind of questions.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because it's almost like there is a need, there is functionality in that. So it's like, I want to create a lending and borrowing market, but I want my own blockchain and I want my own app, dApps on that as a BlackRock. So where do I look? Do I go and develop my own one, which is then you land up being on another call and it's kind of like, well, can you do this for us? And it's like, well, yes, I could, or I could give you a product that is like Sonic. So it's kind of like a more of a business question, as you've so eloquently put, but I think it's going to be really interesting as to whether we arrive at that point in the evolution of blockchain and whether current solutions can be applied to future demand and then what that might look like.
But I mean, an interesting question is about reliability and who can trust us. So if you talk about governance, for example, and a good example for a blockchain would be land titles. It's very sensitive.
Yes.
And at the moment, you as a person owning land, you need to trust your government that it's collecting the data, it's maintaining the data so that everyone else knows that you own the land. And blockchains would be ideal doing this, but can governance trust the blockchain doing the right thing? And for this, we need better security guarantees. So currently, blockchains are developed in more an ad hoc fashion. And can we provide proofs that blockchains always work in a mathematical sense? So basically, you see software, in that case, an L1 blockchain, as a mathematical object, and you ask for certain properties, like as soon as you put a land title into the blockchain, it will never disappear. And so there are certain questions related to software and trust in software that the blockchain world is still in its infancy.
Yeah, I mean, once again, there's like a ton of questions, kind of like ZK proofs, privacy. Obviously, being able to protect certain information from being available in the interest of the client and the chain itself, and then what do you reveal? So I don't want to get into that now. That's probably for another time. In terms of Sonic's journey right now, obviously one of the big things is fee monetization. When you guys originally built Sonic, how did you facilitate that post? Obviously, was it an easy thing? Is it something that kind of like added further value and opportunity to what it is that you guys built? Because obviously Andre came along and said, let's do this. So just kind of like reflect upon that process.
So, I mean, here we need to really acknowledge the brain of Andre, the foresight he has in terms of bringing business value and fee monetization and all the other features we would like to add in near future are really ideas of Andre Cronje.
Yeah.
Building these features are not too hard in a way of, well, it's hard work. So we have a team just dedicated doing the fee monetization, and it's challenging, but most of the work is sort of done outside the chain, and there are some components inside the chain. But I think here we need to really acknowledge that the business idea is of fee monetization is the core value. The technical implementation is more, it's still substantial, but the business idea is, I think, here in the foreground.
Cool. In terms of what it is that you guys have built, right, and developers coming in and protocols coming in, is there something that's there for developers that you think isn't being fully utilized at the moment in terms of its potential?
Well, I think what I hear, and I talk to some of the DEX guys and other DApps. So what I see, and I was really surprised talking to these guys. So they complained that Sonic is too fast. So they have really issues related to queries they need to do to perform their business. And these queries are done with, layers which build on our blockchain with subgraph queries. And so that the infrastructure which we have around blockchain seem to not work with Sonic because we are, it seems, too responsive at the moment. And similar to graphical user interfaces, we have here issues.
Okay.
And I think that is what I hear from the DApps at the moment. I also want to point out that there will be a big change, not just for us, but also for Ethereum. There is something called EIP 7702. It's the Bactra upgrade. For the DApps, this will really be a game changer, so they can start subsidizing the use of their DApps, and they can perform account abstraction, so the use of the DApps might be much easier than it is at the moment.
So is this something that you guys are going to introduce into the future?
So it's basically part of the Ethereum standard. Okay. So it's not specifically something from us. It's just that we do the upgrade.
Okay.
And with that, the DApps have access to this. What we will do is we will start disseminating information related to all this. So we will write blogs and sample code so that DApp folks can pick it up easier and start integrating these features in the DApps.
Awesome. Something that we maybe need to also look at from our kind of like strategy around educating. There's a lot that's been spoken about transactions per second, and this blockchain does this amount and Solana does this, and I think there's quite a lot of confusion around that. And I would love to kind of get a professor's perspective on this, and I would love an academic perspective around what does it actually mean when you guys are saying, so what is the TPS on Sonic at the moment? And what does it actually mean when you say it's TPS, and what is the real practical application across the board?
So I think we need to be very careful here because every transaction is measured in terms of complexity. In Ethereum, it's gas. And we see 350, 370 kilo gas per transaction at the moment. And the more complex the transaction is, the less transactions per second you have.
Okay.
So it's transactions per second might not be a good measurement. And so you may want to switch to measurements like gas per second, which sort of factors out the transactions, and it's just the complexity per gas
Okay.
you measure. But independently of how you measure, the problem is that the industry hasn't got standards. So databases had sort of similar issues maybe before 2000 in the 90s, and they came together and formed a consortium. And the task of the consortium is to measure the performance of databases consistently. And so they came up with a set of benchmarks. It's always there something called out of the box. So you're not allowed to tweak and tune your database. You need to install it, run the benchmark, and then check the performance numbers. So overall, I feel the industry is very much behind in comparison to database systems. It's not so mature, but I mean, we should really consider how young the industry is. So it will come over time, that for sure.
Okay.
But performance measurements are very difficult because you have the volatility of the internet. You have the volatility of what kind of hardware validators use.
Yes.
So there's a lot of unknowns, and reporting transactions per second, I think it's not very scientific from many chains doing just this. So it needs much more rigor. But it is what it is at the moment in the industry. Moving forward, I think, we need this kind of standardized benchmarks in future. But I'm pretty confident it will come at some point.
Great.
And we will see more comparable numbers, between languages like EVM, Move, different types of blockchains. So that's a little bit of a downside in the industry, that we can't make any good judgments at the moment based on performance numbers given by blockchain providers.
Great. Last question. I mean, I could carry on for another hour, but I've just been told that we need to wrap it up. In terms of the work that you've done, you've delivered a product. You did mention to me earlier on that you were prepared to do this for X amount of time. I mean, what does the future hold for you in the space, and where would you like to kind of take Sonic before you would consider walking away and kind of like, okay, I'm calling it quits now?
Well, we have still a long list we want to have implemented. So we have ideas about lightweight clients. We have ideas about improving the database. At the moment, we have S5. We are talking about S6 coming. We're talking about new virtual machines. So there are a lot of projects around the current Sonic client technology, but we need to start a complete new technology which leapfrogs the current technology. And so we are starting now the next generation of blockchains. And we really would like to ask the community to give us requirements, what they think is the right blockchain in 2 or 3 years' time. So we are really excited, and we will have open ears for any of these suggestions from the community, understanding what is the right way forward for us. I mean, we are talking here about maybe, just an example, we have roughly, I guess, 2 billion, I looked up last time, 2 billion credit transactions worldwide. Might be good to build a technology which can do 10 billion transactions, for example, per day.
Yes.
Covering all financial transactions in the world. That would be great if we can provide technologies like this.
Cool.
But there are other technology challenges, like how can we scale decentralization? How can we scale apps? What are the best ways to program smart contracts? So is EVM the end of the, state? I mean, is it the end of the development in terms of language development, or are there other opportunities? I mean, there are languages like Move. Recently, Vitalik from the Ethereum community proposed RISC-V.
Yes.
So there are exciting ways forward to make programmability easier and more efficient than what we have at the moment.
So it does sound like there is no limit to this. So hopefully we'll see more of you and what it is that you are doing.
Yes.
When I started researching what it is that you were doing, kind of thought it was going to be a 2 + 2 = 4 conversation, but it's been quite the opposite. It's been really, really interesting, and I've really enjoyed speaking to you. And yes, I am a bit of a nerd, so that's fine. And thank you so much. I really do appreciate the time.
Thanks so much for having me here.
Cool. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys later.